Imagine setting out for a simple fishing trip, only to end up lost at sea alone, hungry, and drifting for over a year. This is the incredible story of Salvador Alvarenga, a fisherman who survived 438 days on the open ocean, facing storms, sharks, and his own worst fears. Before we dive in, hit the like button and subscribe for more amazing survival stories that show the strength of the human spirit. Let's jump into Salvador's story. Chapter 1. A simple fishing trip goes wrong. It was November 17th, 2012. Salvador Alvarenga, a 36-year-old fisherman, set off from the coast of Mexico with his fishing partner, a young man named Ezequiel Cordoba. They planned to spend just 2 days at sea, catching fish and returning to shore to sell their haul. Salvador, a skilled and experienced fisherman, had faced storms and rough weather many times before, so he wasn't concerned. But things took a sudden, terrifying turn. As they were preparing to return, dark clouds gathered, and the sky turned gray. Within minutes, a massive storm hit, catching them completely off guard. Towering waves tossed their small fishing boat around like a toy. They battled the storm, trying to get their engine started, but the motor wouldn't budge. Desperation set in as they realized they had no control over the boat. With each wave, they drifted further away from shore. The radio crackled as Salvador tried to call for help, but after a few failed attempts, it went silent. They were completely cut off, left at the mercy of the ocean. As the storm calmed, they found themselves alone, floating in the vast emptiness of the Pacific, far from any coastline and far from help. Chapter 2. Lost at Sea. When the storm finally passed, Salvador and Ezequiel took stock of their supplies. They'd only packed enough for a short trip, just a few gallons of water and a small amount of food. It quickly became clear that they were in trouble. As the days stretched on, their food ran out, and they were left with only rainwater and whatever they could catch to survive. Salvador used his skills as a fisherman to try to keep them alive. They would wait for fish to come close enough to the boat and then grab them with their bare hands. Raw fish and rainwater became their only diet. Whenever a rare rainfall came, they'd try to catch as much water as they could, rationing it out carefully, knowing it had to last until the next storm. They drifted further out into the ocean with each passing day. Planes sometimes flew high above them, but their small boat was nearly impossible to spot in the vast blue. The isolation was crushing, and Ezequiel began to lose hope. Salvador, however, kept his spirits up, telling Ezequiel that they'd be rescued soon, that help was just around the corner. Chapter 3. The Loss of a Friend. Weeks turned into months, and the toll of hunger and thirst began to show. Ezequiel, who was younger and less experienced at sea, struggled to hold on. One day, in desperation, he drank seawater, hoping it would quench his thirst. But seawater only made him sicker, dehydrating him faster. Salvador tried to encourage Ezequiel to keep his spirits high, but he could see that his friend was slipping away. One morning, Ezequiel's condition worsened, and he grew too weak to even move. Salvador stayed close, offering comfort, but there was nothing he could do. Ezequiel passed away quietly, leaving Salvador utterly alone. Devastated, Salvador kept Ezequiel's body on the boat for a few days, speaking to him as if he were still alive, clinging to the last piece of the companionship he had left. Eventually, though, he knew he had to let go. He performed a small burial, watching as the ocean took his friend, leaving him completely and terrifyingly alone. Chapter 4. Alone on the open ocean. Now, Salvador was all by himself in the vast Pacific Ocean. His days became a strict routine for survival. He would fish in the morning, try to collect any rainwater, and then wait, just wait for any sign of help. Every day was a battle to stay alive. The food was barely enough, and he had to resort to eating anything he could find, including jellyfish and small turtles. The jellyfish stung his mouth, but he pushed through the pain, knowing he needed the food to survive. Sharks would sometimes circle the boat, bumping the sides as if testing him. He would strike at them with whatever he could find, trying to scare them away. The ocean was beautiful, but also cruel, a place where survival meant constant struggle. Some days, he would see dolphins, their presence giving him a brief sense of peace, a reminder of life beyond the struggle. The heat was relentless during the day, the sun beating down on his face and arms, causing blisters and burns. At night, the temperature dropped sharply, leaving him shivering under the stars. His clothes were tattered, his skin chapped and sore from the salt and sun. The pain was constant, but Salvador clung to life, to hope, to the dream that somehow he would make it out alive. Chapter 5. Holding on to hope. Time lost meaning. Salvador couldn't tell how many days or months had passed. but he kept his mind active to stay sane. Every day, he'd think about his family and friends back home, imagining the streets of his hometown, the faces of the people he loved. He clung to his memories, replaying them in his mind like a movie, each detail helping him hold on to his identity. To keep himself company, he sometimes spoke out loud to the empty ocean, imagining someone there to hear him. He'd even talk to the birds that would occasionally land on the boat, treating them like old friends. He lost track of time, his hair grew long, and he became little more than skin and bones. But his will to survive never faded. He believed that if he kept fighting, there was a chance he'd see land again someday. Chapter 6. The Miracle Rescue. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Salvador spotted something on the horizon, the faint outline of land. He could hardly believe it. After 438 days, his small boat had drifted all the way from Mexico to the Marshall Islands, over 6,000 miles across the Pacific. With what little strength he had left, Salvador guided the boat toward the shore, his heart racing. When he finally reached land, he collapsed on the beach, weak and unable to move. Local islanders found him, amazed at his survival, and quickly rushed to get him help. Salvador's long ordeal had finally come to an end. Chapter 7. Life after the ocean. News of Salvador's survival spread around the world, shocking everyone who heard it. Doctors were amazed at how he had survived so long with such little food and water, and experts studied his story as one of the greatest survival feats in modern history. Journalists came to hear his tale, fascinated by the courage and resilience he had shown. Salvador's journey became a symbol of hope and determination, a reminder of the strength hidden in every person. True to his promise, Salvador vowed to never set foot on the ocean again, choosing instead to stay close to his family and live a quieter life. His story stands as proof that even in the most desperate situations, hope and the will to live can see us through. Salvador Alvarenga's journey shows us just how strong the human spirit can be. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more unbelievable tales of survival and courage. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes hope is all we need to survive.